countdown. 3, 2, 1. You're on.
Welcome to the WalterFootball.com Fantasy Football Show. It's week 9, joined again by Michael Hofer. Michael, how are you?
Great, Walter. How are you?
I'm doing great. And also joined by Kim Calhoun. Kim, how are you this week?
Oh, hello, Walter. I am doing great, and I'm so excited about week 9 and all of our great picks and our conversation about it.
Absolutely. It should be a fun week. Playoffs are around the corner, and I was wondering going into the week how we would break the show down because the NFL trade deadline was yesterday. We're recording on Wednesday. And ESPN devoted a 3-hour TV show to it, and nothing happened. It was like
Yeah,
the Capone's vault of trades. Nothing was there, and
yeah,
we had one minor trade. We had a couple the previous day, so there was at least one trade that was, or I would say two trades that were impactful for fantasy purposes, but nothing happened, and it was very disappointing. What do you think?
That is disappointing. What do you think brought this nothing on? Is maybe there's just nothing out there to trade?
There were many players floated around, like Trent Williams, the tackle for the Redskins, Devontae Freeman, running back for the Falcons, Darius Slay, cornerback for the Lions. Like there's so many players floated around, including the Jets receiver Robbie Anderson. Just no one has moved. It's harder to make trades in the NFL because of contract reasons, and there's a salary cap, and draft picks are more valuable in the NFL than they are in any other sport. If you look at the NBA, outside of the top 15 picks, like these picks are given away just like candy on Halloween. It's like they're so worthless. But in the NFL, every pick is precious, and the teams are just unwilling to part with their draft capital. So it's not really that surprising that nothing happened. But I did expect maybe one or two trades of significance, but nothing transpired. And you have to wonder, some of these teams that really needed something, like the Eagles with a cornerback, the Lions with a running back. Michael, I know we discussed that ahead of the trade deadline. We thought the Lions would make a move, but they didn't. And I forget who dropped the nugget. I think may have been Ian Rappaport from NFL Network. He said that the Lions were trying to trade for Devontae Freeman from the Falcons, but the Falcons just didn't want to part with Freeman. And I'm like scratching my head. I'm like thinking Freeman has such a bad contract. It was a great opportunity for Atlanta to get rid of him, and they didn't want to. So we were discussing front office incompetence before we started recording, and I think that was an example of that.
well, Melvin Gordon or even Rashad Penny, anything. The Lions have no running back now.
Yeah, they have absolutely nothing. We thought that Ty Johnson would start last week. Everyone thought Ty Johnson would start last week. Turned out to be Trey Carson, not even TRE. It was TRA, Trey Carson.
Yeah,
It was no one saw that coming, and it's not like Trey Carson did anything. And then you have J.D. McKissick as well. The Lions are basically rotating three running backs. It's an absolute mess. And I would think they could get maybe a Rashad Penny for like a fourth rounder or something like that. I don't know, but I guess not.
yeah, and they already off C.J. Anderson, and then what's left? Chris Ivory and Jay Ajayi as
Yeah,
free agents. So I would think any of those guys would be better than what they've got right now. But
yeah.
what you said about draft picks, they used to be bandied about pretty good. I think the reason draft picks are suddenly valuable is because the NFL wants as many rookies as possible, rookie contracts, so they don't have to pay guys. Just sign them on the rookie contracts for 5 years and get them cheap, and then they're stuck. Like when you have to pay an Aaron Rodgers, the rest of your team suffers.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Before the CBA, these rookies would make absurd amounts of money, and now the contracts are more manageable. So you're seeing draft picks being even more valuable.
Yeah,
There's some theory that unless you have an elite quarterback, let's just say you have an above average quarterback, you're better off not paying him, letting him go, and
yeah,
then drafting a quarterback because you can pay him nothing, and then sign a bunch of other guys who are way more talented to surround him. We saw, for example, Blake Bortles get to the Jaguars to the AFC Championship. Blake Bortles is on a rookie contract, and the Jaguars just had so much talent around him. It didn't really matter how bad Bortles was until he had to play the Patriots. So, it's kind of like that sort of deal where the NFL has kind of changed, and draft picks are now way more important.
yeah. And
Is
tanking
this
is
kind
cool
of
now too.
I would think this is now like fantasy football. You don't exactly get the best quarterback, but you kind of balance your budget and you get, pick your best players all the way around, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's basically what you do nowadays in the NFL. Unless you have obviously like a Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, you're obviously going to pay them lots of money because they're just that much better than anyone else, and you're always going to be competitive with them. But if you have an above average or an average quarterback, you're better off not paying them, letting them go, and just finding a rookie who's very cheap.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's interesting to know this.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. So we did have two trades. I thought one for fantasy kind of more significant. So the let's see the Cardinals, they acquired running back Kenyon Drake from the Dolphins for a sixth round pick. Michael, any thoughts on this deal?
It's a trick or treat on the Cardinals. Like a week ago, they lied to everybody about David Johnson, and now this week it was just the opposite. They told the truth, and the guy got nothing. So and he got hurt. David Johnson's hurt, but Kenyon Drake is probably just good for 1 week. They're playing Thursday night, and the coach already admitted that he's going to be limited because of the amount of knowledge he has of the team. So, Kenyon Drake. I was sure he was going to go to the Lions because they told him not to get on the airplane in Miami. So sure he was going to go to the Lions. I made a trade for him with one of my arch rivals and a great guy, Matt Hawkins, Detroit Destroyers, for a fourth-round draft choice. I thought it was magnanimous of him, actually. And then when he ended up, I had to drop a player in my roster, and then you have the 24-hour review for the veto. And Matt actually asked me to ask your opinion of this about football ethics, which the Arizona Cardinals should ask themselves about football ethics. But when Drake actually ended up in Arizona, he's only going to play like maybe 1 week, and he's not a very good football player. He needs high volume too, and he's not going to get it there in that offense. So actually, I was giving up a fourth-round pick for 1 week, and I found out by accident last year when I accidentally canceled a trade. I was messing with my roster after I made the trade, and I canceled the guy that I was dropping, and I canceled the trade. So I thought, man, not only am I losing Ty Johnson on this, which isn't much of a loss, but I'm losing a fourth-round draft choice. So I went ahead and dropped Ty Johnson so that I could cancel the trade. I sent the owner a message. I said, if you're really upset about this, I'll go ahead and make the trade with you anyway, just out of honor. But it was a legal technicality, kind of a Bill Belichick move. What's your opinion of that?
I think if it's in the bylaws, you have every right to ask for the trade to be canceled. It makes sense. It's not like you're trying to exploit like a liability in the rules or anything. I think the rules were made for a reason, and if you go that way, I think you're absolutely in the right to ask for that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Oh, thank you, Walter. Let's see what else happened there. Chase Edmonds was lousy, and then Tevin Coleman went off, and a guy who's been trolling me in our league that I've been hoping would drop out. He benched Tevin Coleman and promptly withdrew from the league. I couldn't be happier, and he's already been replaced with a famous guy, a mathematician and famous chess player. So I'm kind of wondering what a mathematician is going to be like playing in a fantasy league. But the only other big news I can think of the week is Usain Bolt has announced he'd love to play in the NFL, but only play for 2 teams. And that would be he'll only play if he's got Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball. And I
that's
found
it.
that kind of intriguing.
That's all he's asking for. Okay,
Yeah.
you've guys like wishing their entire careers to play with him. Like you had Odell Beckham give Tom Brady like a present.
Yeah.
Like, he gave him a present, like some cleats, just in hopes of being able to play with Tom Brady 1 year. And you have Usain Bolt asking these demands. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to take that seriously. Before we get to the other trade, I had a fantasy ethics question for you, Michael. And this does not concern me. It concerns one of my friends. So I want to see what you think of this because it was a heavily discussed topic amongst me and my friends. So one of my friends is in a fantasy league, and he was playing Monday night against this guy. This guy had a kicker on a bye, and he just didn't make a move. I guess he forgot. And so he was planning on picking up a kicker, one of the 2 kickers who was playing on a Monday night game. This is a couple weeks ago. And so my friend, he dropped 2 players from his team and picked up both kickers, just so this guy wouldn't be able to pick up a kicker. So what do you think about that? That sort of scheming
I
there?
love it. I love it, and I would do it in a heartbeat. Absolutely. That's one of the best things about Monday night and Monday night strategies. And part of picking guys up, you might have a really, really solid roster, great guys at running back that you're never going to bench except their bye weeks. But does that mean you don't have guys on the bench that are also good just to keep them away from your opponents? That's part of the game. Do you agree?
Yeah. I don't think it's it's as black and white as as some people can say it is. I think there is some gamesmanship there. I think if you want to say let's just say this guy, I don't know what the result was, but let's just say this guy won by 5. The other guy could say, if I had a kicker, I would have won that game. And so you kind of know that you kind of won unfairly, but at the same time, if you're playing for a big prize and this guy's just not on the ball and he's not having the kicker, it's kind of his fault. So I can see from both ways. You can be honorable or you can be devious. And if I'm not mistaken, Littlefinger lived longer than Ned Stark. So I think it's better to be devious in fantasy, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You snooze, you lose. And I would have done it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even hesitate, and I would have thought of it right away. Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, this week I've got an opponent that still has 3 guys on bye. I'm wondering why he hasn't set his lineups yet, and it's Wednesday. So I'm keeping an eye on that guy for what he might pick up. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it also depends on the prize structure of your league. If it's a high buy-in and there's big money on the line, I think that's totally fair game. But if it's a free league and you're doing it just for fun, and you could have, if you're worried about upsetting some feelings, then maybe you don't do it. So I think it really depends on the circumstances. I don't know. Not that feelings and fantasy football should intermix, but the other.
Dude, you obviously have never lived in my house, where there was a time we had a computer at the end of the living room. My son once leaped over the couch to get to the waiver wire before I did. So I mean, we're fighting to get to the computer even on stuff. So yeah, I think it's totally fair, and I love an open waiver wire. As soon as somebody gets hit and they're slow to get up on red zone, they're picking a guy up.
I absolutely despise the open waiver wire because it's just for me, because I work on Sundays. Like I don't have time to. I'm in 6 fantasy leagues and I don't have time. Like if someone gets injured, I'm not thinking about fantasy. I'm thinking about, okay, what are the implications going forward? What do I tell my readers? What do I write about? And that's like my fantasy team is like the 8th thing on my mind. And by the time I get to it, like someone's already picked them up. So I used to be in a league with an open waiver wire, and I said, if this doesn't change, I have to quit the league because I'm at an unfair advantage here. And they didn't change it, so I just quit the league because it just wasn't fair for me. I just couldn't keep up because I couldn't make the moves for anyone else. But I guess it really depends. I mean, if you're paying like super close attention to your fantasy team, then it obviously benefits you. So I guess it really depends. So there was go ahead.
Don't you watch Red Zone on Sundays?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I watch Red Zone.
I would think you actually have an inside advantage. How long does it take to pick somebody up off the waiver wire?
But again, I'm in 6 leagues and I'm writing for other people. Like I'm trying to give advice. Sometimes, like if there's an injury, I'll fix my ad drop before I even add anyone to my fantasy roster. And so people in my leagues read the site and they'll add the players I want, and then I don't get the players I want. So that's how it goes sometimes. But it's not a big deal. The fantasy year-long leagues I'm in are just for fun and they're with friends. So if I lose, it's not like a huge deal. I pay more attention to my DraftKings teams more than long.
You need? You need an assistant who's following you and listening to you, everything you're doing, while you're doing all this other work for everyone else, and they do your picks for you, right? They do all of it.
That'd be nice, yeah. If I win the super contest, maybe I'll hire a PA to do that. I don't know. So the other trade, the Giants acquired Leonard Williams from the Jets for a 3rd round pick this year and a 4th round pick the next year. Obviously, Leonard Williams is, unless you're playing in IDP, is not someone you're going to worry about in fantasy. But I think he changes the run defense for the Giants, and the Giants should be better against the run. And the Giants play against the Cowboys this week with Ezekiel Elliott, obviously, on the other side. So, Michael, first of all, what do you think about this trade? And second, would you downgrade Elliott at all this week?
No, I wouldn't downgrade him, but definitely the Giants definitely need help. I mean, they're just getting gashed.
Yeah, they're a mess. Their secondary is atrocious, and that's been the main problem with their team. But you can also look at their pass rush, which hasn't existed this year at all, outside of a couple of games against the Redskins and one other. But adding Leonard Williams will add to their pass rush, which should help their secondary. So I think from that perspective, it should help them. As far as Elliott's concerned, I wouldn't downgrade him a lot either. But I think I dropped. I think I took off 10 yards off his total this week. So I took a point off. So if he was tied for someone, maybe he's a little bit below. But obviously, in year-long leagues, if you have him, you're not going to sweat it. You're going to start him. But we're talking, for DraftKings the Monday Night Showdown. Elliott is someone I would avoid anyway because he's probably going to be the highest owned non-quarterback. And now I'm going to be even more eager to avoid him this week. And
that makes sense.
Yeah,
also, what doesn't make sense is the way the Jets spent their money. So at least they're showing some responsibility with their. Spending all that money on Mosley was crazy.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, Mosley was such a good player for them when he was on the field, but the problem is he hasn't been able to stay healthy. I don't know what the Jets are doing. They're trying to trade away for good players, and I kind of joked on my Tuesday show that the Jets just don't like good players and they want to win with bad players. It's kind of like the Chip Kelly strategy from when he was with the Eagles earlier this decade.
God.
It was like Chip Kelly got rid of Deshaun Jackson and LaShawn McCoy, and he wanted to win with his own guys, and it didn't work out for him. I think the Jets are going down the same path with Adam Gase, and who I liked what Gase did in Miami. I thought getting them to the playoffs with such a bad team, I thought that was very impressive. But his stock went way down in my eyes this year. He's just been horrible.
I hope he's a little more animated in front of his team than he is when he's on TV, though, because he's always just like very, very. He's almost like Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I guess. He was telling Darnold that Sam Darnold was mic'd up that Monday night game.
Yeah.
And Adam Gase was kind of giving him a pep talk, and I would say that in quotes, pep talk, because he said, "Go score now. We get the ball. We're going to score again." It's like, how about you tell him, tell him something else. Like, this guy is shell-shocked. Got the deer in the headlights look against Bill Belichick. Like, how about you tell him something else, or tell him not to throw at Stephon Gilmore. I think that's you won't be intercepted a lot if you don't throw at Gilmore. So, any other news you wanted to get to, Michael?
No, I think we pretty well covered it.
Yeah.
What about some things that will impact this week's picks, aside from the draft? Some injuries, some personal things going on with some of the players that stand out?
Joe Flacco. There's Denver has nobody.
Yeah.
and Joe Flacco criticized the coach, and suddenly he's got a neck injury, which is probably true. But they have no one. Apparently, Drew Lock is just not ready to play in the NFL yet. Is that what's going on, Walter?
Drew Lock still has his injury, so I don't think he's even eligible to come back yet.
They could start him this week if they wanted to, from what I read on that.
Yeah, I guess he's not healthy. Otherwise, they would be starting him. There's no reason to start Brandon Allen over Drew Lock. So I don't think Drew Lock's healthy. I think he might be healthy in the next week or two. So that's what
and Andy Dalton. I almost forgot. Yeah, 9 years. They benched Andy Dalton. What do you think of that?
Okay, so Andy Dalton, I think it's the right move to bench Dalton, and I was kind of going back to the trade deadline. I was a little surprised that they didn't trade Andy Dalton when they were willing to.
Yeah, Bears.
The Bears, yeah, that's the one team that comes to mind. They need a quarterback very badly. Mitchell Trubisky is just a mess. The Bears are booing him in every opportunity, and rightfully so. He was horrible outside of a couple throws against the Chargers. A weak Chargers defense, by the way. Yeah, I don't understand why the Bears didn't try to make a move for Dalton when the Bengals were willing to just bench him. But I think it was the right decision to do that because they're going to be in position to draft either Tua Tagovailoa or Justin Herbert in the 2020 NFL draft. So they really need to know what they have in Ryan Finley, who's was a rookie quarterback out of NC State. So I watched all the quarterbacks. Obviously, I watched all the preseason games. I graded every single rookie quarterback in the preseason. Daniel Jones was my number one, and he just looked phenomenal. But Ryan Finley was actually my number two quarterback in the preseason.
Wow.
Over Kyler Murray, over Drew Lock, who got injured. Over Gardner Minshew, like over these other guys. I thought Ryan Finley was very impressive. He was very accurate. He kind of reminds me of Alex Smith, who's not like a great endorsement because Alex Smith has always been an above average quarterback in the NFL. But Alex Smith has been good enough to be a rock solid starter in the league, kind of like an average, below average guy. And you're not going to be killed with Alex Smith until you get deep into the playoffs. And I think Ryan Finley has that sort of upside. Ryan Finley can also scramble a little bit. He's just a very, very sound quarterback. I don't think once he gets experience, I don't think he's going to make a lot of mistakes. So if the Bengals, we're talking about how if you have a rookie quarterback under a rookie contract, you can afford to stock your team elsewhere. So if the Bengals think they have something in Finley, they can go on a big spending spree this offseason, fix their offensive line, add a receiver, add to their horrible defense. If Finley's good, all of a sudden the Bengals could be a playoff team in a couple of years. So they really need to know what they have in him. So I think it was a very good decision to go with Finley.
All I gotta say is that's Wolfpack attitude. Oh,
absolutely, yeah. Finley was very good.
Got that spirit. You can't go wrong when you got somebody from the Wolfpack country. Jimmy Valvano gave us that spirit of don't give up, don't ever give up. So it's good to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was available on our waiver wire until yesterday. One of us should have picked him up, Kim. I feel dumb now.
Can we?
Quarterback leagues, yeah.
Can we pick him up? Can I pick him up?
No, somebody already picked him up. You could have picked him up yesterday. Somebody picked him up. I almost picked him up myself because we have 5 quarterbacks and I had an empty spot. But I didn't know you had such a high opinion of Walter, and I didn't watch NC State play. I feel really dumb now. It sounds like an absolute great guy to pick up in a dynasty league.
Yeah, absolutely. If you start multiple quarterbacks, for sure. I don't know if he has the upside of some of these other quarterbacks, but like Alex Smith was always like fine. So if he has Alex Smith upside, and if you start multiple quarterbacks, then absolutely, you definitely want someone like that. So I was pretty impressed with him. He had a good Senior Bowl as well. Like solid prospect overall. So I like the decision. Going back to the Broncos with Brandon Allen playing. So Allen in the 2017 preseason, he actually outplayed Blake Bortles when he was with the Jaguars. And I argued that the Jaguars should start Brandon Allen over Blake Bortles. Now they ended up cutting Brandon Allen, and behind the scenes maybe he was just horrible in practice, and that definitely could have been the case. So I was eager to see him in 2018 and 2019 preseasons when he was playing with the Rams. And he was under Sean McVay, who's one of the best offensive-minded coaches in the NFL. Brandon Allen, in the 2 preseasons, he had, I believe, 5 interceptions and 9 sacks taking in the 2 preseasons. This is not even playing full games. This is playing under one of the best offensive-minded guys in the NFL. He was just a train wreck, and now he has to play against Myles Garrett and Olivier Vernon, and it could be ugly. I think the Browns' defense this week is going to be obviously one of the top options. So I don't have much faith in the Broncos with Brandon Allen, and Courtland Sutton, their top receiver, takes a hit, his obvious hit. I think one guy who could benefit is Noah Fant, the tight end. He's very talented. And we saw his targets go up last week in the wake of the Emmanuel Sanders trade. And if Brandon Allen is under pressure a lot and he has to dump off short passes, he might throw a lot to Noah Fant. And we could see Fant in PPR leagues having, kind of like a 6-catch, 40-yard game. Just 10 PPR points, not bad. So I think that could be a positive for the Broncos. Even Philip Lindsay catching more passes. But Courtland Sutton definitely takes a hit.
So who did you like better before the draft between Hockenson and Fant?
Hawkinson for sure. He was the more polished product. Fant had more upside because he's a better athlete overall. But I thought he was more raw than Hawkinson. Hawkinson is just like the best pro prospect.
And now you hate him.
No, I don't hate him. I don't hate him.
You put him on the drop list.
I did. I mean, he's a rookie tight end, and I said in the drop list, I said that you could play him in good matchups, but he's not doing much in overall. I mean, he's a rookie tight end. Like rookie tight ends usually struggle, but Hawkinson, I think this week you can play Hawkinson for sure.
Yeah,
Raiders.
I got a big investment in him, and I am starting him this week. And when I read you put him on the drop list, my heart sank.
Well, I think it's a week to week thing.
Okay.
So this week I would play Hawkinson. I don't know what their schedule looks like going forward, but if it's an average or tough matchup, I would sit Hawkinson. So it really depends.
Very good.
Okay. Did we want to get to Kim's fantasy thing, or do we want to ask questions?
Well, are there any questions so far? Let's talk to our audience. Thank you so much for dialing in. It's very quiet out there. I have not seen any chats. Are there any questions or input? All right, Luke, my man, I hope I get to meet you face to face one day.
Yeah.
Now that Kenyon Drake has been traded to the Cardinals, is Mark Walton relevant in season-long fantasy? I know I'm crazy for suggesting a Dolphins player, but he has a favorable schedule for the rest of the season, and it seems like the coaching staff has been trying to incorporate him into the offense more. I didn't see him on your add and drop page, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on him, on Kenyon Drake, that is.
No, I think he's talking about Walton.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, on Walton. Yes, yeah. I'm sorry, on Walton.
The Dolphins are, I've been saying they're the worst team in NFL history, and we saw it Monday night. They were up 14-0 off a fluky turnover, and then they got outscored 27-0, and it looked like Ryan Fitzpatrick was trying to give that cover away at the end with the 2 fumbles. If the officials blew the play dead a half a second later, they would have had a defensive touchdown. It would have been 34-14, and the Steelers would have covered a 14-point spread after being down 14-0, which is just unbelievable. With any Dolphin player, I think is very dubious at best. I think the one exception is Devontae Parker. In PPR leagues, he seems to be getting 11 to 13 points every week. So he's doesn't have the upside, but it seems like he has a high floor. With Walton, you need him to score touchdowns because he doesn't have the blocking. So he's not going to have like an 80 or 90 yard game. You need him to have like 40 yards and a touchdown or something like that, which could happen sometimes. But he's just not going to be very consistent. And, unless you're in a very deep league, it's hard for me to get to him. Even on DraftKings, where you don't have to be stuck with him the whole year, he just doesn't have the upside for me to use him. So I don't like Walton at all. He's not that talented either. It's not like he's a good player in a bad position. Like unlike Devontae Parker is a very talented player in a bad situation. Mark Walton's not a talented running back by any means, and we don't even know if he's going to hold the job for the entire year. Like Kalen Ballage could get the job back. So it's not like he's secure in his job either. So with that team, I really don't want to touch any Dolphin player. I feel like there are better options elsewhere. But if you're stuck and you have no other options, like you could do worse than Walton, I suppose, but it's not exciting.
So that's interesting. I have to admit, guys, I was down in Miami all week last week. So they are very much aware they have a problem. So, but that's interesting to learn that even sometimes, I know fantasy football is about the player, but sometimes it's really about the impact that the whole team makes for that player, right?
Absolutely. If you're a running back and you have the worst offensive line in the NFL blocking for you, you just don't have any room. So, as I said before, Walton's not going to have the 80 or 90-yard game, barring like a crazy play where he just breaks one for no reason against another bad team. Maybe against the Bengals in Week 16, like maybe he breaks one because the Bengals are terrible as well. But in most situations, Walton's not going to produce. I think Walton's like average game will be 50 yards and no touchdowns, and like that's just 5 fantasy points, and just not good enough.
What about
So.
Preston Williams?
Preston Williams is a slightly worse version of Devontae Parker this year. I think in the future, I think Preston Williams could have potential. So if you're in a dynasty league, I think having Williams on your roster is not a bad idea, especially if they get Tua Tagovailoa or Justin Herbert in the draft. That could really skyrocket Williams' potential. But this year, I would rather have Devontae Parker, especially in PPR, as I said. He seems to be catching 5 passes for 50 yards every week, which is 10 PPR points. That's fine for a third receiver. So
Yeah.
I would go Parker, then Preston Williams, then Albert Wilson, and then Mark Walton in my order for the Dolphin players. Wilson, by the way, caught a touchdown. So.
Yeah, I know. That helped no one.
Helped me, and I had Wilson in my showdown slate.
Did you really? Wow.
Yeah.
Bravo. Wow.
He was only 2,000, so I was like, this guy's pretty good.
That is great.
Okay. So, let's see. We've got another question here. I do need some help at running back. Let's see.
So do I.
So we covered the Walter. I do need some help at running back, though, and the waiver wire is so thin that I might need to make a trade. Are there any buy low candidates that can come to mind aside from Devin Singletary, since I already have him? Again, thanks so much for the help.
I like Singletary. I think there may be a changing of the guard there coming up.
But he already has Devin Singletary.
I would ride with him.
Other low buys?
Well, trying to think. So
Darius Guice.
Yeah, Darius Guice. Yeah, he's coming back from injury. He could be back this week, maybe next week, and he has a good matchup this week. I think one of the Charger running backs, Austin Eckler or Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon has looked very sluggish, but as he continues to round into shape, he might be better. And they got their left tackle back, Russell Okung. So, yeah, the Chargers blocking will be better. Austin Eckler is another guy. If you're in PPR leagues, I like Eckler better than Melvin Gordon. Eckler is he saw only, I believe, 5 or 6 touches last week, which was just unacceptable. I actually tweeted at the Chargers, kind of like very frustrated as someone who had a large stake in the Charger game last week. I was like, why does Melvin Gordon have so many touches and Eckler doesn't? And then
Blake should fire that coach.
Well, they already fired the coach.
I know.
They already fired Ken Wisenhunt, the offensive coordinator. So the fact that Wisenhunt was fired perhaps means that they're going to involve Eckler more. And Eckler in games where the Chargers are trailing, and this week's a perfect example. I think Eckler could have a big game because he's going to catch a ton of passes. Derrick Henry is another one. He hasn't been as productive this year, so you might be able to get him cheaply. Not a bad matchup this week against the Panthers, who just got trampled by Tevin Coleman. So I think that's another one.
Montgomery.
Dave Montgomery, yeah, I would say before this week he was a buy low, and then he just rushed for what was it, 120 yards or something.
Yeah, they finally ran out of the eye. They tried a different formation. They should have been doing it all along.
Yeah, for sure. So he's another one. I don't know if you can get him as cheaply this week after the good week, but Montgomery going forward, I like him a little bit more. So those are kind of Philip Lindsay, by the way. What's his face? Royce Freeman is a little banged up, so Philip Lindsay might get more of a workload going forward. I think that's another one. If you're really hurting, someone who might be on the waiver wire, if you're in a PPR league, I don't know if it's PPR or not, but JD McKissick from the Lions, he was on the field quite a bit, and he was running more routes than you would think. So he could be in line for like 6 catches if the Lions are in a position where they're trailing. So in a PPR format, I think McKissick is like not that bad.
I don't know what to do with any lines right now on the running back thing. It's just atrocious.
Yeah, it's not good. You could also like take a flyer with Matt Breida. I know Tevin Coleman just went off, but Matt Breida is going to see a healthy number of touches when he comes back. He's probably not going to play this week. With the 10-day layoff, he's probably going to be back the following week. So I think Matt Breida is someone who could be a nice stash, and you could probably get him for nothing right now.
Yeah.
Matt Breida,
yeah.
Breida, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the coach rotates his players. He cares more about having fresh players than about getting fantasy stats.
You know,
Absolutely.
Luke, I'm glad you bring up these questions because you're giving me some ideas too. So thank you. Thank you so much. He said that makes sense. I'll take a look at some of those guys. Good stuff, Walt. Of course, good
Thanks.
stuff, Walt. Yay.
Thanks. Yeah. Good luck. Good luck in your trades. You probably should be able to get someone for a good price. Just throw out a bunch of trade offers, and someone's going to be willing to accept something. So hopefully you can do that. Um, anything else before we go to the weekly?
I was really kind of wanting to trade for Melvin Gordon, but I'm really scared the way he's playing right now. I'm wondering if it really is him just being out of shape. I had a lot of hope he'd be traded, and then be a great guy to trade for. But currently, isn't Austin Eckler the better back there, and maybe Melvin Gordon? If you trade for Melvin Gordon, it better be in a dynasty league, and it better be for next year, I guess.
Yeah,
Right.
I think if I would say PPR, Eckler, and standard, I would trade for Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon is probably dirt cheap right now because he hasn't done anything. And the fact that you just said that you're afraid to trade for him, kind of actually, that mentality is something that most people probably have.
Yeah.
And I think that makes me even more convinced that Melvin Gordon is probably the right buy low because
I love what you think.
it's very, very low. And as I said before, Russell Okung is back, their left tackle, so their blocking will improve.
That's huge.
And yeah, absolutely. And so I like him. We'll see what the new coordinator does, but I could see him scheming to open up more running lanes for Melvin Gordon. And Gordon is a very talented player. He just hasn't been producing because he's not been in shape. But you have to believe that he's going to keep getting in better shape each week. So. This is the ultimate buy low from Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, Kim, he held out for a better contract, and the Chargers just don't negotiate on that. So he made a bad choice sitting out until a couple weeks ago so he could get more money. So he'll be gone. He won't be a Charger next year. But that's a really weird situation, but it's great for fantasy because you can capitalize on this stuff.
Okay. So I know you're probably ready to get to our top 10 picks. I did want to just maybe do some guidance a little bit about fantasy picking on the DraftKings. I didn't pick anything this week. I was just way too busy in Miami. But giving them spirit. I really was there to give the team spirit. But
that's why the Dolphins played better.
I tried. I really tried. I was, telling them all these great things that we need to do down there. And, the Super Bowl is going to be there this year as well. So, but I was wondering if you could take a look at my DraftKings and kind of give me some suggestions on, what I do next. Can we do that for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's do that. That might help some of our guests who are new. And they can see that I'm just as clumsy and not sure about my picks. But here we go. Here's
okay. So you would go to lobby in the top menu.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually liked Darnold a little bit this week. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But okay, so you want to play in the Thursday night game, or do you want to play in the Sunday main slate?
Let's do Sunday main slate.
Okay, so in the gray there, it says featured, then NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, CFB, right below the top menu. So go to NFL. Okay, and then it says game sets. So you want to go to Sunday 11/3 at 1 o'clock. So just click that. Okay, so you can enter in any of these contests. That you can see at the top there. That's the $1 million contest. It's $20. But you might want to you try the $3 one. It's $100,000 the first. So try enter that.
Okay, yeah, I like the little ones.
Yeah. If you're starting out, I think the $1 or $3 ones kind of make sense. Okay, so yeah, here is where you're going to be making your lineup. So as I said before in previous weeks, you want to stack your quarterback with two receivers because you want the correlation. Because if you have a quarterback and he scores a touchdown, that's great. But if he throws a touchdown to a receiver you don't have, someone else is going to get those points. So you want the correlation, you want the upside. So the first thing you should probably do is decide which quarterback you want. I love, I would say, several of these guys, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford's good, Jameis Winston. As I said, Sam Darnold, I think, is a fine option this week against the Dolphins. And then you have Derek Carr at the bottom there. So I don't know which way you wanted to go, if you preferred one guy over the other.
Well, I think you want to pick a weak defense to go against first to determine your quarterback, right?
I think you can pick defense after you pick your game stack. I don't think
Really?
I think defense is pretty random.
I'm talking about you want to pick a quarterback going up against a weak defense.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So these are all the teams that will be playing at that time. Am I correct?
In the 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock slate, yeah.
Right, the 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock slate. So I pick those teams. Well, give me some ideas. Just help me randomly pick. Right now, the way I look, I have a salary of what's this rim salary of $50,000.
Yeah, your remaining salary is $50,000.
What's the status on Devontae Adams?
We don't know if he's going to play yet, but it sounds like he might be able to suit up. So,
So you really can't go with Aaron Rodgers until you know that.
That's true. Yeah. So I would.
Matthew Stafford against Oakland. There you go.
That's a fine pick.
Oakland can't cover anybody.
That's true.
So Stafford against Oakland. Now I'm picking him because I think he's gonna pass more, or
yeah, because Oakland, their pass defense is bad. So it says the OPRK ranking. It says that's opposing rank. Usually, it's sometimes misleading. Sometimes you don't get all the data, but I think that's accurate there. The Raiders are bad against the pass, so it makes sense that Stafford is going against the 26th best secondary in the NFL. So,
but he costs a lot. So that's a problem.
I think that's okay. So.
Okay, so we'll go with Stafford. You both seem to. So but I can change my picks later, right? If I look.
See that. Absolutely. Okay.
All right. How soon do I need to make my changes, or by when do I need to make my just before the game, or?
Yeah, you can make your changes right before the 1 o'clock kickoff, or if you have guys playing at 4 o'clock, which Matthew Stafford will be doing. You can actually make your changes before the 4 o'clock game start. Obviously, if you have any players playing at 1, you can't change them. But if you have guys playing at 4 o'clock, you can shuffle them in and out. So I would click on receivers next because you want to pair Stafford with some of his receivers. So at the very top, yeah. So click receivers.
Okay, guys, receivers is WR, right? Wide receivers. Yeah. So, all right.
So Kenny Golladay, right, at this number 2 guy, that's Matthew Stafford's number 1 receiver. So, I think you want to add him if you have Stafford because they have the best correlation with each other. And if you scroll a little bit down, you will get to at the 6. I believe he's 6,000. So if you go up a little bit, there's Marvin Jones at 6,000.
Oh yeah, okay.
So those are Stafford's top 2 receivers. So he's most likely to throw touchdowns to those guys. So
I'm starting to like this.
Yeah, so you put in Stafford. I mean, you put in Jones to pair with Stafford.
Okay.
So just click the plus.
Yep. Wow, this is kind of fun. Okay.
All right, now you want to run this game back with someone on the other side because if this game's a shootout, you're going to want the other team. You want Stafford to be throwing as much as possible. If Stafford's throwing a lot, that means he's down. And if he's down, that means the opposing running back is doing it.
Fits perfectly.
So if you go to running back, which is RB, you can get to Josh Jacobs, the Oakland running back. I believe he's right there. He's 6,500.
Down.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs. Okay.
Yeah. So you have a nice correlation there, a nice game stack. You can even add another Oakland player. I don't think adding Darren Waller, the Raider tight end, is a bad option either, but he might be a little too expensive for what you have now.
Well, then you go Hawkinson.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's three Detroit players. You can do that. If you think Stafford's going to go bananas and throw 4 or 5 touchdowns, and Hawkinson catches one, and Jones and
Yeah.
Galladay catch,
Yeah.
yeah, you can do that as well for sure. I don't think that's a bad option. I know that some DFS pros will have 6 guys from the same game in the same lineup. Sometimes if they think a game is going to go like 70, 80, even 90 points. So I guess you want a cheap guy right now to raise your average remaining player. Someone in the 4,000 range is going to be Jalen Samuels.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
he might
What
be
a bargain. What a bargain.
He might be 4,200 even.
Wow.
Uh,
Yeah, that's a must start.
let's see.
Samuels, is
Right
he?
there, right
Is he
There he
there.
running
is.
back?
Oh my God, what a steal.
4,000, yeah.
Yeah, because Connor's out.
Where is he?
Right.
Oh,
He's
there he is.
4,000.
Jay Samuel.
They haven't announced Connor's out, but with the injury he had, he'll be out anywhere from 2 to 12 weeks.
Yeah, he's very cheap. He's going to be highly owned, but I think if you differentiate elsewhere, I think that's okay. So next, I would go to defense. Kind of just kind of figure that out first.
Is that DST?
Yeah, defense, special teams, yeah, DST.
Okay, guys, defense is DST. All right.
So usually I am not too keen on playing the worst defenses, but I think this week is a different situation. Josh Allen is not a very good quarterback. He has high upside, and he's going to have some great games. But the Redskins' defensive line is very good, and the Buffalo Bills their blocking is kind of mediocre at best. So I don't think it's a crazy strategy to pay all the way down for the Redskins. Are going to be at the very bottom at 1,800. So that'll allow you to get very good players elsewhere.
I think the Buccaneers also.
So at this point,
yeah.
you're actually picking the team as opposed to a player?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
You want guys who are going to get sacks. Yeah, defense to get sacks. Next, I would go to tight end because those are the next cheapest guys. So TE.
TE.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So you can probably pay down here. One option is to pick Darren Waller, who might be the best tight end this week, but he's going to be expensive at 6,300. So I'm not sure you want to do that. Something else you could do is go down a little bit, and I think Dallas Goedert is going to be around 3,000. Goddard has been catching a lot of passes in the end zone lately. He's their goal line right there, 3,100 or 3,100. Dallas Goedert. He's been catching a lot of touchdowns lately. He's seeing as many targets as Zach Ertz, so I think he's a good option. So now you have 7,000 to spend on 2 very talented players. Someone I would, so I guess you should probably scroll all the way up. So you're in the flex. A flex can be anything except the quarterback or a defense. So here, I think it would be ideal to get either Christian McCaffrey or Dalvin Cook into your lineup. And I would say Dalvin Cook is probably the better option. I think Christian McCaffrey is slightly better, but based on early ownership, Christian McCaffrey is projected to be owned in 30% of DraftKings lineups this week, whereas Dalvin Cook is only projected to be in 13% of DraftKings lineups this week. So I think Dalvin Cook is a way to get some differentiation if you have Jalen Samuels. So I would click Dalvin Cook.
That sounds like a good deal. All right. So I got about $4,600 left.
Yeah, say $4,600 for a receiver. So if you can find a good receiver here for $4,600, just plug him in, and then you're done. If you can't, then you might want to downgrade.
Oh, right there.
Right.
Yeah,
there we go. We have 2.
Yeah, so Corey Davis is someone who's interesting. He didn't do anything last week, but he saw a high number of deep targets. Just Ryan Tannehill didn't get to him. We saw Mike Evans go off against the Panthers secondary last week. So Corey Davis is one of those guys who is either going to do nothing or he's going to have a good game, which doesn't sound ideal. But if you're in a tournament with I think 200,000 people are in this. You want to have those high upside guys. You want to have players with with high ceilings. So I think Corey Davis is a fine option. If you don't want Corey Davis, you can play Mike Williams as well.
Wait a minute. Who's better? We're talking about Tennessee here, and we're playing Carolina. Isn't Tannehill going to be slinging it? And won't he be going for the long ball with A.J. Brown?
I mean, both guys make sense to me. You can play both. Corey Davis.
Which do you like better?
This week I have Corey Davis ranked higher than A.J. Brown.
Okay. We'll go for Corey.
Okay.
And that'll be our pick. I appreciate your help, and I spent every penny I had. There we go.
There you go. So you can
enter my ticket.
Yeah, you have a free $3 ticket. I don't know why, but you do. So yeah, there you go. Usually this costs $3, but this is going to be free for you this time because you have a ticket. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, I didn't know that. So how do you see that? Where does it say that?
It says,
down here. Free with complimentary.
Yeah, you were given a ticket for some reason. I don't know if you used my promo code, Walter Football.
I did. I tried to. I didn't get anything back, or I didn't see anything.
The ticket might be what you got back. So you got a free $3 play to do that. So.
You might have.
Thank you, Walter.
You might have $100,000 now.
Yeah, this could be the $100,000 lineup. So yeah, maybe.
All right. Well, let's give it a shot. There we go.
There it is. So yeah, that's how you do lineup in DraftKings. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we just had a great lesson and using some great analytic tools. And so this is my lineup, right? So I can go take a look at this next week while I'm watching the game.
Absolutely. You go once the game is live, you go to contests at the very top, and then you'll be able to see how many points you have, what place you're in, how many minutes you have remaining for your team. So it's a fun thing to have open while you watch the game. I think it's very, very exciting.
Well, all I got to say is, my wine country friends are going to miss me on Sunday because I think I'm going to be watching the
game. Nice.
Well, thank you. Maybe the next time on how I'll be doing that this week, though. I'll be doing my picks with him this week and doing what I have to do. I have no idea what it is. And we'll learn that. But I'm going to stop sharing and give this ball back to you.
Absolutely. Okay.
It's being passed.
Let's get to the top 10 quarterbacks of the week. So start off with Russell Wilson at 30 points. He was the most expensive guy in DraftKings, as you saw, and for good reason. He's going to be throwing a lot against Tampa's awful secondary. Aaron Rodgers is next at 29. Rodgers, what can you say? He's on fire right now. The problem is you don't know who he's going to throw to at the moment, but that'll clear up by Friday, I would assume. Jameis Winston, number 3. Seattle's defense is just awful, and I think that Seattle-Tampa game could be sort of like that LA-Tampa game we saw a few weeks ago that was 55-40. So Winston could go off. Dak Prescott plays Monday night, so he's not on the main slate. But Prescott against that Giants defense, we saw what Prescott did to them week 1. He was just fantastic. Tom Brady, Baltimore secondary and defense overall is not what he used to be. So Brady, I think, is a good option this week. He plays Sunday night, so again, he's not someone on the main slate you can use. Phillip Rivers, number 6 against the Packers. I think Rivers is going to have to throw a lot because the Packers are going to be way ahead. So that just means a good thing for Phillip Rivers. Daniel Jones, number 7. I think, again, like Rivers, he's going to throw a lot Monday night. Matthew Stafford, your quarterback, number 8. Could be ranked higher than this. So I have him tied for 6th, really, if you see the points. They're 24. All these guys are pretty close together. Number 9, Gardner Minshew against the Texans. That game, by the way, is going to be a 9:30 a.m. Sunday morning because it's in London. But there is we're going to have the daylight savings to help us out a little bit. So it's kind of like 10:30. So that's nice. And then Derek Carr, number 10, going against the Lions, who don't have a good defense. So, Michael, what are your thoughts on the top 10?
I think that despite the game being in Seattle, last week we saw the first time where JPP was playing with Ndamukong Suh.
Mm-hmm.
And the Buccaneers front.
Uh-oh.
I think we
good at running.
Okay,
there we go.
Yeah, we got you back.
Russell is really good at running for his life, and I think he's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah, I think you were saying that Russell Wilson's going to be running a lot because of the Tampa's pass rush. Kind of, you were breaking up there a little bit. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think this might be a case where Tampa's actually ahead. I think Tampa is going to win this game against Seattle.
Yeah.
So I think Wilson's going to have to throw a lot. So I agree. Anything else stand out to you?
Yeah, I agree with everything else you said.
All right, sounds good.
I love it that you put Daniel Jones up there.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a lot of garbage time points and yardage, which is great for fantasy. All right, running backs, Dalvin Cook, number one. Even though he's a little bit cheaper than Christian McCaffrey, I like Cook a lot, a little bit more than McCaffrey there. I think Cook against the Chiefs defense, which is just atrocious against running backs, is just a great matchup for Cook, and he's so talented. Then we have Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey tied at second, and you can't go wrong with either. They're both phenomenal players. Number 4, Aaron Jones. So Aaron Jones has seen 7 or more targets in 4 of his 5 previous games. He's emerged as a 3-down back, like the main weapon for the Packers. I will say though, the caveat here is that if Davante Adams comes back, Aaron Jones won't see as many targets. So I'm going to drop him a little bit depending on Adams' status. But if Adams doesn't play, Aaron Jones is absolutely a top 5 running back this week. Number 5, Nick Chubb. It's not a very good matchup, but Chubb, I think he's matchup proof. He's so talented. Against the Patriots, we saw him break for a long run. Granted, he fumbled at the end, unfortunately.
He's been fumbling a lot lately.
Yeah, he has, but he's so talented. Like it's so hard to ignore him. Ezekiel Elliott here, number 6. As I said before, I dropped 10 points or 10 rushing yards, so 1 point. Le'Veon Bell, number 7, against the Dolphins. We saw James Conner do whatever he wanted to against the Dolphins Monday night. Just a very good matchup for Bell, and he should bounce back. Number 8, Josh Jacobs, your other running back, Kim. He's a great option this week against Detroit's defense. Tevin Coleman, number 9, plays Thursday night against Arizona. I would under normal circumstances, I would say fade Tevin Coleman this week because he went off and the 49ers could go with other running backs. But Matt Breida's injured. Raheem Mostert's banged up. Jeff Wilson Jr. is banged up. Tevin Coleman might be the only healthy running back they have. So there's really no choice but Tevin Coleman. So I like him against Arizona's defense. Yeah. Rounding out number 10, Austin Eckler, as I discussed before. I think Eckler is going to be more involved this week because the Chargers are going to be way down. They're going to have to throw a lot, and Eckler is going to catch a ton of passes. So those are my top 10 running backs. Michael, any thoughts?
No, I agree with you again.
Okay, sounds good. Good to have agreements. I'll say sleeper this week, Jordan Howard. Revenge game for him against the Bears.
Yeah, revenge game indeed.
His former team, he's going to be more motivated, and the Bears haven't been good against the run ever since they lost Akeem Hicks to an injury. All right, receivers. All right, let's go to receivers. So top guys this week, Amari Cooper, Monday night against the Giants. Great matchup. Nothing really more to say. He torched the Giants in week 1, and I don't see why he wouldn't do that again. Number 2, Tyler Lockett against the Buccaneers. As I said before, I think Russell Wilson's going to have to throw a lot, and Lockett is his number 1 receiver, so it makes sense. Number 3, Chris Godwin. So Mike Evans had the better week of compared to Chris Godwin last week. I think this is more of a Chris Godwin week, but I as you can see here by number 5, Mike Evans, I love them both this week. I don't think you can go wrong. On DraftKings, if you use Jameis Winston as your quarterback, I would play both Godwin and Evans, kind of like you did with Golladay and Jones stacking with Stafford. So that's kind of an easy stack to get to with Tampa. But both have good matchups. I think Chris Godwin's matchup is a little bit better. Kenny Golladay, Kim, you're one of your receivers, number 4, phenomenal matchup against Oakland. Number 6, Tyreek Hill against the Vikings. So going into the year, the Vikings had a talented secondary, but Xavier Rhodes, their top cornerback, has been banged up. He's not 100%, and he's been torched every single week. So I think Tyreek Hill could be the next guy to beat him. Number 7, DJ Chark against the Texans. Again, this is a Sunday morning game, so it's not going to be on the main slate. But if Chark were on the main slate, I would have a lot of interest in him. Number 8, DeAndre Hopkins. Again, he's not going to be seeing with Jalen Ramsey this time, so Hopkins should have a great game. Number 9, Keenan Allen. He's someone I think you can buy low. He was banged up last week. He was kind of slipping on the grass nonstop, and the CBS announcers thought it might be because of his hamstring. But if he's healthier this week, I think he's going to bounce back, especially if the Chargers have to throw a lot in garbage time. And rounding up the top 10, Allen Robinson. We've seen how bad Philadelphia's secondary is, and Allen Robinson's very talented. It's a shame that he's being restricted by his quarterback, Trubisky. If I would say this, if Allen Robinson had a good quarterback throwing to him, he might be number one this week. That's how much I love his matchup, and he's so talented. The fact that Trubisky's going to be weighing him down kind of lowers him, but he's still number 10 in my mind. So, any thoughts on this, Michael?
Hey, you hit the nail on the head again.
Nice.
I think, except the Tampa guys, they're going to be such a popular pick. I think on DraftKings, it's not going to be contrarian. So I think that's just way too obvious.
You're right. They're very highly owned on DraftKings. One thing in that case, if you want to play Winston, what you could do is you could play one of the receivers and then go to Cameron Brate if OJ Howard's out. That's one thing. One thing you can
do. Loves Cameron Brate. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing you can do is just be very contrarian elsewhere. The people who have Winston with Evans and Godwin, they might be playing some other guys, some of the more popular guys. If they don't care about ownership, they're probably going to be playing like very popular guys. So if you go with that stack, you probably want to go very contrarian elsewhere. So I still think you can make it work. You just have to be mindful to have a unique lineup to give yourself a chance to win the grand prize in a 200,000 person contest.
Yep, very good.
Okay. All right, tight ends. So we have George Kittle, number one. He plays Thursday night, so not eligible for the main slate. Number two, Darren Waller. Kim, he's someone you could have put in your lineup, I think, if you wanted to have a full game stack, 5 players in the same game. So he makes sense to me, but he's very expensive as well. So you couldn't have gotten to Dalvin Cook if you put Waller in your lineup. So I think it was the right decision to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but Waller is a fantastic tight end. He's really not even a tight end. He's kind of like a receiver. So he's just so physically gifted. Number 3, Travis Kelce against the Vikings. If Kelce had Mahomes throwing to him, he'd be number 1 this week. But he's going to be weighed down a little bit by Matt Moore. Number 4, Hunter Henry. He's finally being priced appropriately on DraftKings. The past couple of weeks in DraftKings, he's been like 3,800, 4,000. I don't know what they were thinking. Now he's 6,000, which is like right where he should be. He should still be a top 5 tight end this week, but it's not as easy to get to him this week. Number 5, Evan Ingram. Ingram had a good game against Dallas the first time. I don't see why that should change. Dallas is not good against tight ends. Number 6, Mark Andrews. Marquise Brown, the number 1 receiver for the Ravens, is going to be shut out by Stephon Gilmore. So Lamar Jackson is going to have to throw elsewhere, and that elsewhere is probably going to be Mark Andrews. So I like him. Number 7, Zach Ertz. He's I guess the better of the Eagles tight ends, but he's way more expensive than Dallas Goedert is. So if you're gonna give me both guys and at even price, I would take Ertz. But Dallas Goedert, I believe, is $1,900 less than Ertz, and I think their projections are somewhat similar. I prefer Ertz a little bit, so I like Ertz a little bit this week to bounce back. Essentially, the Bears are not good against tight ends. Number 8, T.J. Hawkinson against the Raiders. Michael, you said the Raiders can't defend tight ends. They're absolutely horrible against them. Number 9, Darren Fells, who had 2 touchdowns last week. I think he could get into the end zone again. Not too many great options this week at tight end, but Fells is one for sure. And then number 10, Jonnu Smith, who looked good. Jonnu Smith's status depends on Delaney Walker. If Delaney Walker's out, then you want to play Jonnu Smith. If Delaney Walker comes back, then obviously you don't want to have Jonnu Smith in your lineup. So what do you think about these top 10 tight ends?
The quarterbacking stopped right there with Tannehill. I would definitely drop Andrews behind Ertz and Hawkinson.
Okay.
Andrews started out the season like he was the best tight end in the league. He's been really cooled off lately.
Yep.
I really – oh, my God. Sorry.
That's okay. I will say, though, about Andrews, he had 3 drops in his previous game against Seattle. So I would think that he's going to play better. And if he didn't drop those passes, his stats would have been much better. So I think Andrews has the potential to bounce back.
And I love Hawkinson this week. I really think that Stafford's been on fire.
Yeah.
And other than that, I agree with everything else you said.
Okay, and as a bonus, I have defenses this week. So
Oh,
I
wow.
get to the top defenses, 49ers against Arizona. I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Maybe a little controversial to have the 49ers over the Patriots, who are on pace for a record-setting year. But I just think the 49ers matchup is better than the Patriots.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so I have 49ers and Patriots. Browns number 3 against Brandon Allen. Seems like it should be a great game for them. Bills number 4. This depends on who the Redskins start at quarterback. If it's Dwayne Haskins, I absolutely love the Bills. They might move up to number 3. If it's Case Keenum, not so much. Redskins offensive line's good now. So I would avoid the Bills actually if Case Keenum starts. So it really depends. Eagles number 5 against the Bears. Mitchell Trubisky is giving out interceptions like candy on Halloween. So the Eagles are a great option at this week. Jaguars number 6 against the Texans. Their pass rush is going to get to Deshaun Watson, who struggled against them in the first matchup. So I like the Jaguars. Number 7, Seattle. Jameis. This is a pure play against Jameis Winston, and I don't think it's crazy to play Seattle's defense in the same DK lineup as Jameis Winston, because if it's just weird though, right? Because if Jameis Winston scores a lot, then Seattle's defense is not going to get that many points. But look at it this way: so if Jameis Winston throws a pick 6, you're going to get a ton of points for Seattle. And that just means Jameis Winston is going to come back on the field right away and keep throwing in a deficit. And that just means that, Jameis Winston's going to score a lot too.
That's
so I think this is like a rare instance where you can play a defense against a quarterback, which normally you don't want to do, but I think you can this week.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Number 8, Carolina. Ryan Tannehill, I don't trust him very much. Number 9, Minnesota. It really depends if Mahomes is out. If Mahomes is out, then Minnesota's a great play. And then rounding out the top 10 is the Colts. We saw how bad Mason Rudolph was on Monday night. So Colts are a solid option. So any thoughts on the defenses?
Yeah, well, watching Jameis last week, he was throwing interceptions and didn't care. You could tell that the coaches even told him, they're trying to limit turnovers. But they had to try to win the game. So that guy is still slinging it without a conscience. So what you said about Seattle is absolutely brilliant. I totally agree.
Yeah, remember that 55-40 game with the Rams?
Yeah.
He threw a pick 6 in that game. So
yeah. And he doesn't care. Just keep slinging it more. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, he just doesn't care. So yeah, I mean.
Yeah, my Redskins aren't in the top pick.
No, they're kind of right here. They probably should be higher. I think I would probably move them up, but they're only 1,800, and I think that was basically just a price play.
That got you Delvin Cook.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have Delvin Cook in your lineup.
Okay,
defenses,
it's all about balancing the budget.
Well, and defenses are all, it's like picking kickers. It's harder to predict. So, and defenses are closer to being the same than players. So it's not such a bad deal at all.
Yeah, how I handle defenses when I do DraftKings. So if I make 150 lineups, I will cap it. Actually, this says right here, exposure 20. I will make sure that I have no more than 20% of any defense in my lineups because they're so random. I don't want to have higher exposure to any defense, even if it's the Patriots. They're going to be expensive. If they're cheaper, maybe I'd rate them. But, defenses are random because the defensive touchdowns are random. Fumbles are the most random thing in sports, I think. You don't know where the ball's going to bounce, and the defensive team could pick it up and run it back for a touchdown. All of a sudden, your defense is looking good, even though they're a bad defense. So, under normal circumstances, I would play as cheaply as possible for defense, unless you get a great value at the top.
Right.
I think this is great. I'm learning so much, and I appreciate it. This is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else before we sign off?
That's it.
Luke, do you have any other questions or any input for our team here? Awful quiet.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll sign off.
Yeah, I would say that check out walterfootball.com. We have updated fantasy rankings every single week. Looks like we have a comment or a question.
Oh no, I'm good. He appreciates that.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Like I said, check out walterfootball.com. We have updated fantasy rankings, picks, NFL mock drafts if you're interested in the draft. So we have tons of content every day. Yeah, let us know who's going to be in your DraftKings lineup this week. Let us know who you're picking in fantasy or trying to trade for in fantasy. Yeah, your trade deadline might be around this time. So yeah, let us know. And otherwise, I will talk to you guys next week.
All right,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a great week.
Bye, guys.
Happy Halloween.
Absolutely. Bye.
Bye.
Wait,
That's a wrap. Good night, everybody.
yeah, great show. Thank you, Walter. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, great
Thank
show.
you.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Sir?
It's valuable advice you shouldn't have given away, man. We should share that privately. This is anybody who's involved in daily. If they aren't listening to Walter, then they're really missing out. And it's an honor to work with you guys.
And here
It's a lot of fun.
I am just having the time of my life, and I need to listen more, and I am. But I also, I'm going to text you before I make my next. At least get the captain right this time. But no, this is a lot of fun, and I've learned so much. And thank you for explaining how all of that works. And even though I didn't win anything, I felt like I gained so much just in understanding what's going on and what you guys are doing when you're watching football all day long. It's not just about the game, right?
It's compelling, dude.
Yeah, it's
theater. There's nothing like it.
So much analytics involved.
Yeah.
It is just mind-boggling, but fun. But before we go, I want to thank our viewers who dialed in and ask them if they have any questions or pointers, or if they, want to just say anything. I'll be more than happy to unmute anyone.
Give us your honest opinion of Walter's book after the flight.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to definitely.
Think how much smarter you're gonna be after that.
One last question for me. This is from Luke.
Okay.
Let's see if we can pull this.
Oh, yeah. Should he play Austin Hooper if Matt Schaub's playing? That's a great question.
So should I still put Austin Hooper in my lineup even if his quarterback is injured and doesn't?
Matt Schaub.
I'm thinking about the starting Darren Waller ahead of him in that case. And I've had that written down here. So yeah.
I would play Waller over Hooper. I don't think Hooper's a bad play if Matt Schaub is starting because Schaub is going to have to throw shorter passes. But what you're going to give up with Schaub is potential touchdowns because they might have like one drive at the end or maybe two drives in the fourth quarter where they get toward the red zone. But
Schaub throw touchdowns for his team or the other team?
That's true. That's true. So Hooper, who I had at, he's number 2. If Matt Schaub starts, Hooper probably dropped to like number 10 around there. So I would have Waller ahead a little bit over Hooper. Again, like it's not a good matchup, but they use Waller as like a receiver sometimes. So it's not like they're just going to take away a tight end again. Like he's just so talented that, and he's their primary receiver. So I would start Waller over Hooper. But obviously you want to pay attention to the injury report. So
and pay close attention to that before the game, right?
Yeah. I mean, even if you do, like with David Johnson, you never know what's going to happen. So it's always a risk, but usually the quarterback's not going to be sidelined after one play. I've never seen that happen before. That would be remarkable. But yeah, so if Matt Ryan is announced as playing, then fire Hooper up. If not, then I would start Waller. So that's what I think about that. But it'd still be close.
That's
brilliant, Walter, and thank you to our millions and millions of fans watching on IBM TV.
Well, thank you, Luke, for the great and wonderful questions and all the other people who dialed in. Wait, we got something else. That's a good
Thank you, Luke. Yeah.
Thank you, Luke. We thoroughly enjoy the fact that you're dialing in, and we look forward to seeing you next week, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, that's it for this week. You can go to walterfootball.com. I'm going to have updated fantasy rankings every single day. We have NFL picks, 2020 NFL mock draft. So lots of content. And the book, please, if you want to support the site, A Safety and a Field Goal, it's available on Amazon. Check that out if you can. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys next week. And for everyone listening, just What do you think? Who are you going to play in DraftKings? Who are you going to play in your year-long leagues? Just let us know. If you have any sleepers that we missed, for sure, let us know in the comments. And otherwise, I'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, you guys can always post on Facebook too, and Walter does answer
Yeah.
those posts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you very much.
Love you guys. Thank
All right,
you.
thanks, guys.